Look, Kayla, the truth is, everyone here is replaceable. Those words fell from my boss's mouth with all the subtlety of a swinging sledgehammer. I can still picture the moment so vividly, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the stale office air thick with tension, and my supervisor, Randall, leaning back in his leather chair, arms folded. He pronounced the word replaceable with a casual shrug, like it was simply a fact of life, a universal truth I should have already accepted. But that moment set off a chain reaction I never saw coming. Because as I stood there, the blood pounding in my ears, something in me snapped. 2 years before, I'd joined Randall's marketing agency, All Points Creative, fresh out of grad school. I was brimming with ideas, determined to make my mark in the industry. In the beginning, it was exciting. I brainstormed campaigns for regional clients, saw my concepts come to life, even snagged a few local awards. I believed in Randall's vision, followed his guidance, and put in countless extra hours to refine projects. Then little cracks started showing. Randall would brush off my proposals in front of clients, only to repackage them as his own a week later. He'd promise me raises that never materialized, citing budget constraints. And any time I pressed for clarity or tried to stand up for myself, he'd wave off my concerns, telling me to trust the process or stay humble. But the worst blow was that day in his office, after I dared to question the fairness of my pay. Replaceable, he repeated. You're good, Kayla, but don't ever think you're irreplaceable. The way he said it, with a smirk that curled his lip, made my stomach twist. We had been meeting to discuss a huge new account, an eco-friendly skincare brand looking for a dynamic digital marketing campaign. I'd worked for weeks building the pitch. I'd stayed up nights researching consumer behaviors, analyzing SEO metrics, and designing a bold social media strategy with interactive user challenges. But in that brief meeting, Randall decided not only to slash my credit for the idea but to remind me that if I didn't like it, well, there was the door. I left his office trembling with a cocktail of rage and hurt. Part of me wanted to storm back in and quit on the spot. Another part feared how I'd pay my bills if I walked away. That evening, I took a long walk around my apartment complex, replaying Randall's sneer in my mind. I thought about all the times I'd quietly swallowed disrespect, hopeful it was just part of the journey. But that single comment felt like a final straw. I wish I could say I calmly planned my next steps. In reality, I spent the night alternating between anxious tears and frantic scribbling in a notebook. I listed out all the skills and connections I had. I wrote down ideas for my own marketing startup, a place where employees felt valued, clients heard fresh perspectives, and no one got told they were disposable. By 3 a.m., my spiral of emotions had crystallized into one fiery determination. I was going to build something better, something that would leave Randall's condescending grin in the dust. The next day, I walked into the office with a purposeful calm. I didn't quit just yet. I wanted to gather as much intel as possible. After all, if I was going to start a rival company, I needed to understand where All Points Creative thrived and where it stumbled. In between tasks, I quietly made note of clients' biggest grievances, the logistical bottlenecks we faced, and how Randall's leadership often caused confusion rather than clarity. Over the next few weeks, I confided in a few trusted colleagues, designer Rohan and copywriter Melissa, both of whom were also fed up with All Points' toxic environment. We'd share secret, hushed conversations in the supply closet or over quick lunches outside. Rohan was a design genius stifled by Randall's micromanaging, and Melissa felt her creative copy got systematically overshadowed. With a shaky laugh, I told them, I want to start something new, my own agency. Are you in? Rohan nearly jumped from his seat. Absolutely, he said, eyes blazing. Melissa, more cautious, took a moment, then nodded. I've dreamed of a place that respects good work, not just good schmoozing. If you're serious, I'm in. Their immediate support felt like wind in my sails. In the evenings, I started filing the legal paperwork for an LLC, brainstorming names, and mapping out the brand identity. We landed on Radiant Wings Marketing, a nod to the idea of transformation and growth. It was a bit whimsical, but the three of us liked it. It felt fresh and forward-looking, the exact opposite of All Points' stale approach. We set up a rudimentary website, nothing fancy, but clean and modern. I put together case studies based on the campaigns I had spearheaded at All Points, careful not to infringe on any NDA details. My goal was to show prospective clients that we had real experience in delivering IOI. Rohan crafted a vibrant, eye-catching logo, while Melissa penned the mission statement, capturing the spirit of authenticity and collaboration we craved in a workplace. Initially, we planned to operate on the side, but fate sped things up. One afternoon, Randall stormed into my cubicle with a face like thunder. "You've been slacking, Kayla." The McAllister pitch was sloppy, he barked. The fact that I'd spent the entire weekend perfecting that pitch fell on deaf ears. "You'll finalize the deck by tonight, or we can find someone else who will." "That's enough, Randall," I said, surprising even myself with the firmness in my voice. "I'm done. I quit." He blinked, stunned. For a split second, I caught a flicker of panic in his eyes. Then he scoffed. "Fine. Good luck out there. You'll see how replaceable you really are." My chest tightened at his words, but I kept my expression blank. I gathered my things, texted Rohan and Melissa that the plan was going live right now, and left without looking back. In the days that followed, Radiant Wings marketing was officially born. Rohan quit the next morning, and Melissa the day after that. We set up shop in my living room, 3 laptops, a folding table, and a lot of coffee. Our financial runway wasn't much. I had savings enough for about 3 months of living expenses. Rohan had a small nest egg, and Melissa was scraping by with the last of her freelance side income. But we had unwavering passion. We spent our first week cold emailing potential clients, small businesses we knew from local networking events, a handful of old contacts from college, even family friends who might need marketing help. Our pitch was simple. We offered fresh ideas, personalized service, and a down-to-earth partnership. No corporate nonsense, no inflated fees. At first, we got a lot of polite rejections or no responses at all. Doubt crept in. Maybe Randall was right. Maybe we were just cogs who'd fail on our own. But on the 8th day, we landed our first client, a quirky organic tea shop looking to boost their online presence. We undercharged them, mostly out of desperation, but it was a start. And once we poured ourselves into their campaign, word spread. The tea shop's marketing soared on social media, tripling their online orders within 2 weeks. They raved about our approach, how we truly listened to their story and built a brand narrative around it. Other small businesses noticed. Then we caught a lucky break. An up-and-coming vegan skincare line reached out, one I'd originally pitched to at All Points. They'd been unimpressed with Randall's stiff approach and heard through the grapevine that I had started my own agency. They gave us a shot. We poured our hearts into crafting a vibrant brand identity, partnered with eco-friendly influencers, and orchestrated a live stream event that garnered thousands of views. In under a month, the skincare line saw a 40% jump in sales. They were thrilled, and so were we, because that success emboldened us to pitch bigger fish. Meanwhile, I kept an eye on All Points from a distance. I heard murmurs through the industry. Randall's turnover rate was skyrocketing, and his new hires couldn't keep up with the demanding environment. Clients started noticing a decline in quality. In group chats, mutual acquaintances whispered that if you wanted fresh, innovative marketing, Radiant Wings was the place to go. Just 3 months in, we had half a dozen clients, some modest, some with serious budgets. Our growth felt surreal. We moved out of my cramped living room and into a tiny co-working space downtown. It was basically one long table with 3 seats, but the building had a reception area and conference rooms we could book for pitches. Slowly, we invested in better software, hired a part-time content specialist. Our pipeline was so busy, we sometimes slept under our desks, fueled by cheap takeout. But none of us complained. We were building something that was ours. A turning point came when a major tech startup, Nexitech, put out a request for proposals to overhaul their brand strategy. Word on the street was that All Points had also submitted a proposal. Competition was stiff, with bigger agencies in the mix, too. But we decided to swing for the fences. Over 2 sleepless weeks, we brainstormed a bold, interactive campaign that would launch Nexitech as the future-forward brand of the next decade. The proposal was extensive, detailing everything from social media gamification to immersive product showcases. We presented it in person, wearing our best professional outfits, hands trembling with adrenaline. By the end of our pitch, the Nexitech team seemed genuinely impressed. A week later, the email came. "We loved your vision. Radiant Wings Marketing has been selected as Nexitech's partner." I nearly fainted from excitement. Rohan whooped so loudly the entire co-working floor heard him. Melissa cried tears of joy. We'd just outbid established industry giants, and, as it turned out, All Points among them. Nexitech's project was big, the kind of account that could permanently elevate our agency's status. It meant real revenue, enough to scale up to a proper office and pay ourselves actual salaries. Sure enough, within weeks, we were knee-deep in the biggest campaign of our lives. We hired 2 more designers, a junior copywriter, and a part-time admin assistant. We started meeting weekly with Nexiteca's executives, exchanging data, refining strategies. The synergy was incredible. They loved our energetic approach, and we thrived off their innovative mindset. Then, about 5 months after I'd walked out of Randall's office, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, a gruff voice said, "Kayla, it's Randall." He paused, as if waiting for me to hang up. My stomach fluttered, but I stayed silent. "Listen, I heard about your success. Got a moment to talk?" A tidal wave of conflicting emotions surged through me: anger, triumph, curiosity. "Sure," I said evenly, stepping into an empty corridor of our new, slightly bigger office. Randall cleared his throat. "Things have been tough at all points. Lost a few key accounts. Heard you snagged that big Nexitec deal. Congratulations. Look, I might have been harsh before, but maybe we can bury the hatchet." He forced a chuckle. "We could work together on a project, or you could consult for us. I'd be willing to offer you a senior role if you want to come back." I nearly laughed out loud. He was offering me a senior role, as if it was some grand favor. I pictured him in his now lonely office, realizing the golden goose he'd scorned had flown the coop. "Thanks, but no thanks, Randall," I said calmly. "Radiant Wings is doing just fine on our own." He sputtered something about synergy, about how we could benefit each other. But I'd already tuned out. The conversation ended politely enough, but the moment I hung up, a wave of satisfaction swept over me. The man who once called me replaceable was now scrambling for my help. Not long after, word broke that All Points Creative was shutting down. They'd bled too many clients, lost their best employees, and had no major contracts to keep them afloat. I won't pretend I wasn't gleeful when I heard. My phone buzzed non-stop with ex-coworkers sending me updates. Randall just announced they're closing the doors. Some asked if we at Radiant Wings had any openings. We did, and we offered positions to a few talented folks who'd stuck by me before. Eventually, I heard Randall sold off what remained of All Points' assets to pay debts. He might resurface somewhere else, perhaps with a smaller firm or freelancing. I didn't follow up. My focus stayed on Radiant Wings, which, in under a year, had grown from a dream scribbled in my notebook to a thriving agency with a portfolio rivaling companies 5 times our size. Sometimes, people ask how it feels to have crushed my old boss's company in just a handful of months. On the one hand, it's thrilling, vindication that his arrogance was misplaced. But on the other, it's a powerful reminder of the importance of respecting the talent and passion of the people who work for you. All Points might have survived if Randall treated his team like valued partners instead of disposable cogs. I look around our open-concept office now: bright walls, creative murals, a lounge area with bean bags for brainstorming sessions. Rohan is demoing a new design concept to a potential client. Melissa is guiding our junior copywriters through brand voice exercises, and our newly expanded team buzzes with excited collaboration. We're not perfect, and we still face plenty of challenges, but we've built a culture of mutual respect and empowerment. And me. I still remember the moment I walked out of Randall's office, feeling both terrified and exhilarated. I remember how the word replaceable rang in my ears, fueling my determination. No one is truly irreplaceable, of course, but everyone is valuable. Everyone deserves a place where their skills and ideas matter. That's the company I set out to create, and in doing so, I proved that sometimes the best response to being told you're disposable is to build something unstoppable. Wherever Randall is now, I can only hope he's learned his lesson, that people aren't just assets or liabilities. They are the lifeblood of a business. In the end, the only thing that got replaced was his failing approach, swept aside by the unstoppable force of passion, teamwork, and a little revenge-driven ambition. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way.